Ladies and gentlemen, we have an incredible program today. Joining us from Australia is our good friend John Prescott. And let me tell you, we have some things. I'm going to let him give us some info. He talks about what we're seeing as the forming of the Third Reich. But John, there's so much going on. You sent me one article. Actually, you sent me a lot to help us all stay connected, because you even sent me the article from Alex Newman, which I was at a conference with Alex Newman 2 weeks ago. And I said, Alex, here's a quote from you, from my friend, from John. And it was his article about what's happening in Australia is coming to America. But one particular article, and you commented on it, it will hit the healthcare, Medicare for the digital ID, and more Australian companies will do what Lorna Jane is doing here. You went on from there, had several other things. Some of this I want to avoid right now.
I'm sure.
Down here we have, you have UN troops in Australia talking about the digital prison. This is a reality, folks. Cash for digital ID in Western Australia. Digital ID is voluntary for now. It's the carrot and the stick, as JB said last week. John, there's so much going on. Plus, everybody, we have a couple of videos that you all need to see to really help you connect. But before I'm going to show you the first one in a minute. It's with police, was it chief of police or whoever it is?
Yeah, I was one of the sergeants in New South Wales and Sydney.
Okay, I'm going to show you that video, everybody, in just a minute. But first of all, John, before we roll, what do you want to say to everybody? Then we're going to start rolling with this program.
Well, I just want to say hi from Australia, and thank you as always for having me on the show. It's always an honor to be given a voice here. The things that you were bringing up, of course, Tom, that's old news. That was last week. I'm telling you, it is so hard to keep up with what is going on. You really truly have to keep your head on a swivel here, and of all places, it's mesmerizing when you really focus too much on it. So that's what's happening. So I don't know where you want to go with all of this and where you want to start, but shoot something at me. I'll definitely give you the lowdown.
Okay, we're going to roll. There's a lot. So first of all, I like your shirt. Very nice.
Thank you.
Looks like a Hope for a Time shirt. I have my Hope for a Time shirt here.
Well, look, Tom, the checks keep coming in the mail. Thank you guys for all of that. Yeah, I mean,
can you send some this way?
No.
Wow.
No, folks, trust me, I do not get any money.
No, I know. People are gonna think, wow,
I know they're gonna flip.
John's getting rich off of this. That's what they're gonna think.
Yeah, right. Yeah, my money tree. Okay. Yeah. Anyway.
So as we move forward, I want to get into the Third Reich in a minute. I mean, there's like a million different questions.
Third Reich.
What?
It's the Third Reich was in the 19th.
Yeah, you're going to connect Third Reich to the Fourth Reich, and it's not a coincidence that this is also called the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which is another thing. So we're going to get into all this in just a minute. But first of all, folks, we're going to show you this short video clip from this police sergeant in the land down under.
Before you show that, not everybody who watches your show is going to know what's going on here in Australia. So let me just tell you, tell you that first. So we've had, in the last 2 weeks, we've had two major incidents happening in Sydney. We had a major stabbing in a mall. This is actually unrelated to it, because apparently it was a guy who was schizophrenic who went nuts in a mall. There were a bunch of people who died from that. So that kind of got the whole community in Sydney kind of in an uproar. And not but a week later, you had this sole bishop, and of course my daughter's correcting me here. This is the sole bishop of the Good Shepherd Orthodox Church down in Sydney. Don't know what suburb it is, but apparently he's a part of the Assyrian sect. So right in the middle of service, if you haven't seen it yet, right in the middle of service, some kid came up and went and stabbed him in the middle of service, and it was all on social media. And that's really the clip that you're going to show is actually a knee-jerk reaction. And there's a reason why it happened. And I'll explain to you why that happened after we show the clip.
Okay.
But that's the backstory of what happened here just in the last week or two. It was really appalling what happened. But look, these are crazy times that we live in. So
okay,
here you go.
Let's roll this video. And then, John, after the video, I want you to explain what's going on.
Sure.
I also want to stress that there is misinformation being communicated across social media, and people should not share any of that information. The source of information should be from police and law enforcement authorities, and if people have concerns, they should check our websites, our socials, and any other direct news from law enforcement about current information. If we have current credible information about any risk or threat to the community, we will let them know. We will share that with the community. So please be assured that police will be the source of truth and not social media and misinformation.
Wow, so, I mean, there's a lot there, but I mean, just the very end, please know we're the source of truth, not you. So we're going to decide what's true. Okay, John, take it away, because even as Alex Newman says, what's going on there, it is coming here to America. Take it away. Fill us in.
Yeah, that is absolutely appalling. Now, look, the reason why, and it's not just her as well. This was you had the prime minister of the country also, Anthony Albanese. He actually got on radio the other day, and it took everything within me just to not like be cursing at the radio, because it's like, oh my gosh, how dare you say this? It was the same message. It's like, this is supposed to be a land of freedom, and yet the freedoms within this country are quickly being whittled down to, as you just saw in that clip right there, to where no, we are the authority. We are the people you need to listen to. Do not go to social media. And that's what Anthony Albanese was saying last week. He says, your first reaction should not have been to post it to social, but to give your clips to the police. Well, sorry, that's not the society that we exactly live in. And they're trying to put a clamp down on that through, there's a misinformation and disinformation law that that's coming up in Parliament here very quickly, where they're basically going to start censoring all the clips that are on social media. And what you just saw right there is really an extension of where this is, or basically an example of where this is going to go. It's like, okay, don't listen to social, listen to us. We are the authority. We know what's best for you. And folks, that is the Antichrist spirit that's happening right here. I mean, that's really what this is. So in regards to that knee-jerk reaction, what actually happened in that incident, it's my understanding that very shortly the police came to arrest that person who did the stabbing in the church. And then what happened was there was something like 2,000 to 3,000 people that just showed up on the church, and it got very dangerous. Now, I don't condone this at all. It's really appalling what ended up happening, because I understand, I think 45 police cars were damaged in this whole thing. There was a police officer who ended up in the hospital because somebody broke his jaw. I mean, it was very serious. So imagine if you've got, let's just say, if you got 45 police cars, even if you had twice that, 2 in each car, you had 70 cops against thousands of very angry Assyrians. That's an issue. That's a problem. It's very dangerous, and it becomes this whole mob mentality. So I think, what you're seeing is really the pushback from that incident. But again, is it infringing on the freedoms that are within the country? That's, it's a fine line. Well, I don't know exactly how to, follow or explain that one.
I'm going to have you walk us from the Third Reich to the Fourth Reich in just a second, but I'm looking at, again, these articles: UN troops in Australia, digital prison, digital IDs voluntary for now. And by the way, everybody, I have this book. This is Foreshadows by Steve Miller. 12 mega clues that Jesus' return is nearer than we think, nearer than ever. Excuse me. And it just totally goes along with what we're talking about, John. Again, this isn't John's book, but it's Steve Miller's, and it's the rise of globalism, the trends toward a one-world government, the struggle to build a united European empire, the progression of a one-world economy, the proliferation of deception, the assault on truth, the explosion of hostilities toward Israel and the Jewish people. By the way, this book was written before all of these current events are going on with Israel and Iran. The preparation for the new temple in Jerusalem and more. Against foreshadows, 12 mega clues that Jesus' return is nearer than ever. And it just goes along with everything we're talking about, John. I know it's not your book, but I want to encourage everybody. It's a great book. We do have it at the Hope for Our Time store. You can go there and check it out. You'll be greatly informed. Okay, John, with that, start walking us through, or should we show the next video first?
Well, not just yet. Let's talk about the digital IDs, because I do want to touch on that very briefly. Because again, it kind of ties into something else that's going on. I mean, that's why there's so much happening here all at once that it's difficult to just put everything in its place. But in regards to digital IDs, apparently they just did pass this. I guess that would have been about 3 weeks ago, to where this got shoved through Parliament. This is very unprecedented, that there was, I think, roughly 150,000 signatures that were against digital IDs here in Australia, and yet both Labor and Liberal parties, they didn't care. They didn't want to hear anything about it. They didn't want to hear the people at all. They just said, nope, we're doing this, we're shoving it through, and boom, it's done. Just like that. That has never happened, apparently, here in Australia before. Now, what's happening is that this is going to be kind of a slow, semi-slow roll in within the country of how this is going to be implemented. I do know that they're starting in some public sectors. For example, I know my daughter's driver's license just expired and she needs to go in and get a new one. I've heard in the last 6 months, they've basically, when you go to get your new driver's license, it's got to be one of these digital ID driver's licenses. The other way they're going to, through the public sector, enforce this, or force this, just like they did in COVID, is that if you want healthcare, great healthcare system in Australia here, but now it's going to come with a cost, and the cost is going to be everybody has to be on the digital ID. That probably won't happen until probably towards the end of the year, but what I understand is happening, and again, this is parallels what they did in COVID. This is going to hit more in the private sector more than anything, is that now these big companies are going to be requiring digital IDs. And again, this is also, the other side of this too, is that there's a fight for cash currency here, paper money. Well, it's not paper here, it's plastic, but they're trying to force people to get onto this whole digital currency where it's a swipe of the card, which again ties into digital IDs. I don't know how exactly that's going to, work out anyway, because what we're finding now is that every time you go to tap something, they're charging you, 1 to 5% of your bill just to tap. Yeah. So that's an issue too. And that's why people are starting to pay more with cash. I don't know how they're going to work around that, but I do know that in the private sectors by the end of the year, it's all going to have to be digital. So it's a fight. It's an absolute fight what's going on here. Now, let's focus on, I think one of the articles I sent you to was in Western Australia, they're already starting to incentivize people going towards the digital ID. So it's like, okay, you'll get the check just like they did in COVID. Here's some money if you get the digital ID today. And that actually ties in with something that I don't think you know about this article, because I just pulled this one the other day or a day ago. Here's the article headline. It says, COVID-19 inquiry, Federal Police Union wants National Guard to ease the burden on officers in the next pandemic. So what they're basically trying to do is they're trying to weaponize civilians to turn people in, is what that National Guard is going to be. And
So National
Yeah.
Guard is not,
no,
it's not official. It's
not
it's
like the
actually
US.
getting people to turn in their neighbors.
Yes.
That's an
It's not
interesting
like
National Guard.
It is not like the U.S., where people of the National Guard are the people who had done their service, and then there they are in the National Guard. No. In fact, that's what the article talks about, is that they are basically trying to get people to rat on their neighbors.
Wow.
Is what they're trying to do.
Wow.
I mean, hello, this is 1930s Germany.
Okay, so
this is crazy.
I got to ask you, so you're saying these things will be implemented by the end of this year?
Look, this particular article right here, this is an inquiry. They're looking into it, okay? But again, the fact that it's even on the radar, that's concerning.
Okay, well,
I mean,
here, not only that, John, but to show you how easy I believe this will come about, is people will do almost anything for money now, at least here in the U.S. And I've come across several different articles when it comes to these anti-Israel protests, these pro-Hamas protests here in the U.S. A lot of these protesters being paid money. One article I came across, $1,400 to be a protester, $1,400 US dollars to be a protester. Another article, it's the, gosh, I can't remember the name of the, Act Blue is what I think it's called. They're paying, because these things have to be funded from somewhere. So if people are willing to do this, they'll go against their neighbor, especially if it's someone they don't like, or a church they can't stand, or something like that, or videos like this. Oh, you better believe it. It'll be easy to find people to do that.
If anything, I hate to say it this way, and I say this with tongue in cheek, it's more lucrative to be an illegal immigrant.
Oh, it totally is. I mean, you watch what's happening here in America, it totally is. I mean, I'd be better off denouncing my citizen, going down to Mexico, walking across the border,
Give me my money.
And saying, hey, I need money. Okay, well, let me give you health care. Let's give you food. Let's give you a place to live. How much money do you need a month? Here.
Well, it's nuts. And I don't know if you saw this the other day. I just did a video on this where, there was a leaflet found in New York City where basically these NGOs are, in the leaflet is basically saying instructions on how to vote for Joe Biden so that we can keep the borders open for the next 4 years.
Wow.
I mean, that's insanity. Wow. Yeah, if anything, it's not even insanity. This is treason.
This is bad. Yeah, this is bad. It takes somebody from Australia to be able to see what's going on here. I mean, a lot of people here can see it. A lot of people aren't talking about it yet. But then we have different politicians on both sides of the aisle that are willing to give money to Ukraine and nothing to the borders here in America. I'm sure you saw that over the weekend, which is
But it's not going to Ukraine.
Well,
I mean, they say it is, but
where do you think that's going?
Well, if anything, it's going towards the military groups to make more military weapons, and maybe some of it gets to Ukraine, maybe, but probably the rest, if anything, goes either to Israel or it goes to the pockets of the people who voted for it.
It's just bad. Okay, so as we look back in Australia, so we have cash for digital ID in Western Australia. Digital IDs are voluntary for now. Of course they are. For now so we'll take you the mark of the beast. It'll be voluntary until let's do that or get your head cut off. That's still coming in the future. By the way, everybody, what's happening right now is not yet the mark of the beast.
No.
But it's definitely a preparation for what is coming. And that's why we talk on these things. Okay, UN troops in Australia. We have, it was just reported the other day, we have these Chinese nationals that are coming over here. I'm looking at them, and we've been talking about it for a while, but I'm looking at them. Listen, the reality of it is they're trained. These people are trained in the takedown against the American public, right? And we already know there's training camps. Those have been talked about for years. Glenn Beck was talking about those things years ago. I was just alerted to one that our sheriff discovered that's probably only about 5 miles from my house. It's Chinese, right? 5 miles from my house. It's out in the desert, you know, and it's there. So what are they going to do about it? Maybe in the county I live, it's very conservative. They might do something about it, but what can they? I mean, you got the feds involved in this stuff. They know exactly what they're doing. This is treason at all these different levels here in America. But what's happening there in Australia is let's implement these really bad systems. Again, I want you to get us from the Third Reich to the Fourth Reich in a minute, but are we good to show this video yet?
Well, sure. And let me just preface that one too. I believe this is from the United Kingdom, not from Australia. But I think what is happening in this video is that somebody gets a little bit of a visit from the Popo. Because I believe what happened was he probably went to his priest in his local region, and whatever he might have said to him, it caused alarm bells. I think people are just at a, just on a hair trigger to go after this because, when you do see the stabbings and things like that, it's so appalling. We can't have this, so let's turn everyone in. So that's what I think happened in this particular video.
Interesting. So the video itself is not great video footage. So just give everybody heads up. You're going to be looking at a floor for part of it, but listen to the conversation that's going on because that is intriguing. And then John's going to explain that after we get through the end of the conversation. This one's a little bit longer than the last one. This one's about 2 minutes long. So let's roll this.
Hello, my name's Sean. I'm a senior nurse. I work at the NHS.
Yep. Name and number, please, mate.
Yeah, PC Green, Echo Bravo 428.
John Joe, PC Turner, Hastings Police Station,
Thank you.
959.
So what's this about then?
So it was just a few
I won't film
concerns.
it, I'll just get it recorded.
Yeah, no, it's fine. Just a few concerns.
It's smelly right now, sorry.
It's alright.
He's like a mop, he just picks everything up.
He's lovely. What's his name?
Klaus. So why are you here today, sorry? No, you can all sit down, it's not a problem. You've literally just missed the missus and that, they've gone out like 10 minutes ago. Yeah. So what's the issue?
So it was just to, obviously what we've been told, that you might have a few concerns, a few things that are bothering you at the moment.
Yeah.
Whether there's
That's
anything
bothering everyone else in the country right now. So what are the concerns you're here for? Because this is religious discrimination right now, Because you wouldn't be knocking on Muslims' doors if they had this conversation. Because I already know why you're here. So this is religious.
Why do you think we're here?
I don't know. What's the priest told you?
They're just, people have raised concerns.
What concerns?
About your views.
What
whether
views?
That you've got concerns about what's going on in Australia.
Yeah, so I'm an Orthodox Christian. Now you've turned up at my house because I went and see my priest. So I'm going to get you all on film because this is going straight to my solicitor.
So what are your concerns? Is there anything that we can help with?
No, firstly, I don't mean any disrespect to any of you. I don't want to sound abruptive. You can tell me why you're here.
So I think as PC Sam's explained, so there was a report about some beliefs being expressed. So the reason I'm here is I work for the NHS, and if you're willing, I'm happy to talk and listen with you
No, that's
about
fine.
if you've got any concerns about your well-being.
No, I'm fine. I'm
so
fine.
you fine.
Klaus, out. Sorry. No, because he's just jarring otherwise. You can sit down, mate. It's not an issue.
So my understanding is, now I'm not a police officer, I'm a nurse, so my understanding is...
So because I've questioned about the church not acting on the behalf of Christians, you're now turning up here with mental health nurses, assuming that I'm some right-wing nutter.
So no one assumes anything. Can I explain my point of view? And I'm happy to...
No, that's fine,
So-
because I...
Okay, so we have these things taking place. We can tell what's going on in Australia. You believe this one came from the UK, religious freedom. You look at this and go, we're just watching everything increase, right? This police state and digital ID, digital tracking. We have the World Health Organization meeting that's coming up in May. Everybody's on edge, that's paying attention. What's going to come out of that? And I'm looking at these things, John, going, this is getting pretty sketch, to say the least.
That's being kind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's just a step or two away from how dare you believe in the rapture of the church? You're one of those crazy extremist Christians. Of course, this has been biblical for, how long? And it's only, let's just say in the last, well, I don't know, 10 years maybe, that this has come under real scrutiny. But I mean, I think, I said it before, I think this is the Antichrist spirit that is trying to infiltrate every part of the world, for that matter. And they're doing it faster in some areas and slower in others. And again, it's a question of, to me, it's a question of, I think we do need to resist in the sense that, look, some of this stuff is just absolutely crazy. I mean, just even, you cited the whole Alex Newman thing. He wrote a great article about something that happened here in South Australia last week. Now, granted, there has been some pushback from what happened in South Australia from that. And I don't know if you want to bring that article up, but I mean, they're trying to mainstream things that, let's say, even 5 years ago were just unheard of. And it slowly keeps creeping into society. I'm ready to say American society, but it's all society, Western society, at least that I see.
So yes, I watch all of these different dynamics that are taking place. It's very concerning. And so, John, we go back to the Third Reich with Hitler.
Right.
It's not a coincidence that, I don't think it's a coincidence that we keep hearing the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and you see what, it's not just the World Economic Forum, it's all of these different global organizations. Yeah. They're all marching to the same orders of a spiritual entity, and they're building this global system. So as you look at this, you compare what was then, you compare what was now. I think you mentioned you have 3 different things specifically.
I do. Before we get to there, I just want to show you one thing, just to kind of bookend what we were talking about in regards to the social media clips that were there. It's apparently this woman right here who is she's the commissioner of all the communications in Australia, and basically she's one of the people pushing for the type of censorship that is happening here in Australia. And of course, what's come with this, and this is laughable. I mean, I cannot believe that they're trying to do this. But basically, they are trying to, they put out a call to Elon Musk in Twitter and basically said, we're going to fine you $500,000 US per day that you keep all those social media clips of the stabbing on your channel. And of course, here's the kickback. And this is what I mean by pushback, is you've got Elon Musk that basically says, no, I'm going to sue the Aussie regulator over global order to remove the content. This is hilarious. He's not having this.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't know, he's basically, saying, nope, not going to do it. How are you going to enforce it? And that's it. I don't know. It could come down to where basically they ban all of X Twitter in all of Australia. I don't know. That could be a way.
But don't you think that's what they want to do?
Of course, because they can't have freedom of speech.
Yeah, I mean, China totally controls everything. And they want to do it here in America, obviously over in Europe. Of course they want to control free speech. So this may just be, hey, we're going to push here, you push back, we'll do this, we'll do that, and then eventually we're going to have a reason to get rid of you. And as the Australian Police Commissioner just said in the first video we watched, hey, we're going to be the arbitrators of truth. So we're going to decide. So this is the direction it's going.
Right. So now that we've talked about all of this that's happening in Australia, these and this is just scratching the surface of the things that are actually happening here. So let's go back to a little bit of history. And this is just an article that I pulled, just understanding our 20th century history and the formation of the Third Reich back in 1930. So we're talking pre-war. This is what was happening in Germany. So censorship was enforced by a number of methods. So first, the secret police or the normal police ensured that the rules were kept to. Well, what did we just talk about here? Now they're looking into forming some sort of a national guard to turn your neighbors in. Okay, so that's step one. Secondly, anyone who wanted to go outside of the desired party norm faced the most serious consequences. So all you crazy Christians who believe what the Bible says, you're on our list. Third, people in general were expected to report anything unacceptable to their local party chief. Those who knew something but did not report it were deemed as guilty as those who were against the system. So again, this is just history repeating itself again. And we're seeing the formation, the beginnings of it. In fact, it's funny. I've got actually a neighbor across the street, this older couple who they're German. I don't know if they're into it. I don't know if they're believers, but I should probably talk to them and see if they see even parallels of what's happening here in Australia. I don't know if they're paying attention.
Well, it's rather fascinating. Do you think it can't be a coincidence also at the time that we're watching this rise of the Fourth Reich and all this anti-Semitism increasing too? Because if you look back, the censorship of that type was localized to wherever Hitler was making his influence, right?
Right.
And same thing with anti-Semitism, right? But now it's global. And
exactly.
so is anti-Semitism. So both the censorship and the anti-Semitism are both going the same direction at the same, just like they did back in those days. So basically Satan is just using a playbook that worked on a small scale, and he's got the global powers that be say now it's time to cram it down everybody's throat on this global scale.
And this is what I mean by the spirit of Antichrist. It's the same MO as back then is what's happening now. And let me just point this out, because isn't this a wonderful coinkydink? Isn't it funny that now, thank you, because of COVID a few years ago, we now have work camps built in many places, many different countries around here. I know in Australia, there are several of these so-called work camps where they can detain people if essentially, and that's what happened in 1930s Germany, is that they originally started as work camps before they turned into concentration camps. And, the heavy stuff really came. I don't know if it's going to get that far before the rapture of the church. I don't know. But I find it fascinating that, again, these are parallels of history, and we should be paying attention to this.
Well, we should be paying attention to it. When we look at what's going on in China, we have people like the governor of the state of California who seems to really think what is happening in China is wonderful. We know Klaus Schwab has just raved about how China runs, and yet what do we know? When they want to silence somebody in China, they take you through the steps with the social credit system where, well, first of all, you're not going to be able to travel. Then your kids aren't going to be able to attend the school. Then you're not going to be able to shop at these kind of stores. Then we're going to put you into a locked-in community. And then if you continue to be bad, guess what? We're just going to take you from there, and we're going to put you into a camp. And guess what we're going to do to you in a camp? We already know. With the political dissidents, the ones they don't want, we know they're harvesting their organs for the people who are going along with the Chinese government. This is sickening. But yet, this is the type of people that the governor of California and the leader of World Economic Forum and other leaders that are leading all the things that we're watching, these are the type of things they're bragging about and saying we should be like them. So when you see something like this going in Australia, listen, we know some of these things are here in America, but it's never mentioned here in America. I mean, you talk about it here in America, John, they immediately say, you're crazy, you're a nut. That can't possibly be going on here. I mean, look at our borders, like you mentioned, and you start to question. You just question things. You're immediately a conspiracy nut, and then there's enough preachers out there that will tell you, hey, just keep your mouth shut. This isn't about anything regarding the Bible or any of that. Joe Biden really has our best interests in mind. These people are crazy. And they're saying we're the crazy ones.
I can't even imagine anybody. I mean, not that Donald Trump is a treat either. But it's like, oh my gosh, I cannot imagine anybody who is voting for Biden at this point, because it's kind of like, okay, look, I'll just put it down to this, and this is, look, people. One of the things coming back from America, one of the things that I really saw was just how hurting people are financially. And it's kind of like, I was there in 2018 and I couldn't believe how good things were. I mean, this was like, the Stepford children world of just, everybody was happy and almost to this weird point. But, I think it was just kind of a relief from the oppression of, 8-10 years prior, to that. But here we are back to square one again under this regime. And it's like, have you forgotten what things were like just a short time ago? I mean, did you have a job then? Were you happy? I don't care if you don't like the guy. It has nothing to do with somebody's personality. It has everything to do with policy. And with the policy that's in there today, look, all I see is basically all your taxpayer money is getting squandered. That's it. In a nutshell, because that, I don't know how many thousands you paid in taxes this year. Has it gone to help you?
No. In fact, it's a very sore subject with me personally right now. But, tax day was just, a week or so ago.
I know.
So I'm not too happy. Just, it is what it is.
You enjoy that?
Again, you look at money goes to abortion, money goes to all these bizarre clubs that are out there. Money does not go to our borders in America. We point our finger at Israel for having borders, but we'll spend money on all these other countries and their borders, and we'll build up militaries, and we'll do all these other things with the tax dollars of the U.S. taxpayers, the ones who actually work, and then most of the other people aren't even working, and they're getting the freeload. The whole thing is, I believe it's absolutely intentional to collapse everything. John, real quick, I just want to remind everybody about this book. Again, it is great, foreshadows 12 mega clues that Jesus' return is near than ever. And again, just some of the chapters: the assault on truth, the proliferation of a deception, the preparations for the new temple, the forming coalition to destroy Israel, and many more. It's great to really get a good understanding of what's going on. And again, this isn't my book, it's not John's book, but we do have it in our store if you want to get it. It's just a book I would recommend. But with that, John, how can people connect with you? Because you have great things. How can they connect with you?
Sure. Well, look, I've got a YouTube channel, which hopefully you guys will put the YouTube URL.
Oh, well, we will, of course, do that for you.
Oh,
of course we will. Because you're wearing a Hope for Our Times shirt.
Yeah. Well, keep the checks coming. So anyway, also too, and I'm really encouraged by this. This is just happening recently. I started a website called themightyright.com. And let me clarify that. That is not to do with right-wing politics at all. It is the right hand of God. We are supposed to be warriors for Christ. That's who we are. So that's where the mighty right.
The right hand of God. I'm glad you clarified that, because here in America, that means something different. But the right hand of God, that's great.
Correct. What's actually come from that is a Facebook group that has become organic. And this is on the heels of the conference here in Australia, is that I cannot believe this. This is happening organically, where now people are meeting via Zoom calls without my hand on it, because I don't have time for that all the time. But they're meeting and just talking about faith and just boosting each other up. So those people who are actually, looking for a church to go to, I mean, that was kind of like the number one thing. How do I find a church? Everybody's in this thing. Not that this is a replacement for church, but this is actually a good way to at least bring like-minded believers, to encourage others, to lift them up, and to talk about the hope that we actually have. And that's really how I even want to bring this whole thing home today, is that we really do need to have hope in everything that we're talking about. Look, we can get all, wrapped up in all of this, and just it is just mind melting with all the stuff that is going on. But I think we need to keep our focus on Christ. We need to be looking and reading at the Word. This needs to be daily. If you're not doing it daily, we got issues. But we need to keep that our lamps full until Jesus comes. That is the hope of why we do this. The only reason why we bring up these articles and things like that is to keep pointing to the fact that all this stuff is happening. How much closer is the return of Jesus? I don't know, but we've got to keep our spirits up. And we can't do it on our own. I mean, you're foolish if you think you're going to, hide in a cave and say, okay, I'm here till Jesus comes back. And that's not the right way to go doing it either. I would encourage everyone, speak to your neighbors, speak to, people, boost them up, give them hope. If anything, we are supposed to be the ones that have hope in Christ. And if you don't have that, well, then maybe you're doing it wrong. Yes, some things kind of stink and some things are very discouraging, but that's not where I set my sights.
Amen. Hope, John, thank you so much for bringing that, because that is so necessary. Be sure to check out everything that John has. We have his description in the links. You can find everything there. John's a wonderful brother and friend. Can't wait to see you again whenever that may be. Certainly here, but maybe in person. Also, I will be in Lake Stevens, just north of Seattle, coming up May 3 through 5. You can check that out at the events page on HopeOurTimes.com. I'll be up there with Dr. Billy Crone, Eric Barger, and Pablo Frassini. So hope you guys can join us there if you're in the Seattle area, coming up early May. And also we'll be in Mexico. Got a great opportunity to really make an impact in Mexico. That's what we're about, is bringing hope, just like John said. So we'll be in Mexico first weekend in July. Check that out also at the events page. How can you help us with Mexico? Well, it starts by number one, by prayer. We really need your prayer. If you know people living in the northern part of Mexico, especially the Baja area, let them know, encourage them to get involved, especially on July 6th. Brandon, myself, one of our other friends will be speaking down there. Everything will be translated into Spanish. Listen, we need to bring, as John said, the hope to the world. And that's what we're about. It's the hope of the gospel of the Lord Jesus Christ. Everybody can see something's not right. And so what do? We say, you're right, this ain't right, this is what the Bible says. And guess what? Jesus came the first time that we be forgiven. And that, friends, is why we do what we do. So we appreciate your prayers. We appreciate any support you can give us. We cannot do this without you guys. Thank you so much. And God bless you guys. Thank you for joining us today. John, a final thought. Do you have one?
I was just going to say, always a pleasure, but I look forward to when we can catch up again soon. That's always good fun.
Great. God bless you, everybody. Thank you for joining us.